What's up everybody, Noah from Stage 3 Motorsports, and today we're going to be doing an install on this Corsa Sport exhaust for the 11 to 14 Raptors with the 6.2 liter V8. So first things first, when you pop open your Corsa exhaust, you should have a couple parts that you'll be looking for. You're going to have your overaxle pipe that you can see behind me. You're going to have your tips, the actual muffler, some anti-seize, a set of clamps, and then a little adapter pipe that you've got up there at the front. It is a catback design, but it's actually technically resonator back, so it will maintain all of your emissions equipment plus that factory resonator to kind of help dole out the tone just a little bit and make it a little more smooth and not quite as aggressive. As long as you've got all these pieces here, you should be good to go. They build everything out of 304 stainless steel, and it's all 3-inch mandrel bent tubing, so everything it fits really cleanly, it's welded nicely, and looks good on the truck. With that being said though, let's jump right into it. For those of you DIYers that are going to be doing this in your driveway, you will just want to get some ramps and some good jack stands though to make sure you can get the truck decently high up in the air to give you space to work underneath. Obviously for our purposes though, we're going to go ahead and use the lift. All right, underneath the truck, looking at our factory exhaust here, you can see the resonator is right next to my head, and this clamp is gonna be the first thing we need to remove so we can get the rest of the system off. The first thing you'll wanna grab is that 15mm deep well to get onto this with your ratchet, and we can start breaking this free. And once that's loose, now we can move forward to the actual hangers and remove those. This first hanger you'll find right on the front of the muffler, and you're gonna go ahead and remove these two 10mm bolts to just completely take the factory hanger off for now. Now before we remove the other hangers to drop this kit down, obviously we don't want this to fall on our heads, so we're going to take a pull jack and prop it up, kind of hold the muffler here, that way as we remove it, it has something to set on and it's not going to just fall out of the bottom of the truck. Next we're going to come to the back side of the muffler where this hanger is, kind of up top, and this is going to be another 10mm bolt to remove. So the very last hanger holding this kit up is going to be at the end of the overaxles here. This one's going to be the most difficult to get to. Basically, there's another 10mm bolt on the side of this bracket up here on the side of the frame, and then there's going to be one on the bottom right over here. So with the side bolt removed, we're going to go ahead and take the one off the bottom here. Now in front of the resonator here, we have this flange section with two 13mm bolts that need to come off. We also hit it with a bit of penetrating oil to help those separate a little better and keep them from locking up. With both of these 13mm bolts removed, this is going to go ahead and just kind of slide out of the flange. And now you can see the exhaust is going to be balancing on our pull jack. So we're going to just gently lower this out of the truck. Looking at the factory exhaust laid out here, we've got the resonator at the front, and while we already loosened this clamp, you do have to be mindful of a little tab here that's going to prevent you from removing it. The only thing you have to do is just simply rotate this a couple degrees and then slide it forward, and that's going to allow you to slide your resonator off the factory kit, and now we can reuse this with the Corsa system. Now on the back section of the exhaust here, we're going to go ahead and remove the factory hangers and these rubber grommets. So if they are bound up, you can put a little bit of WD-40 or some oil on there to help loosen it up. Then it should just pop right off. We're gonna go ahead and kind of take these pieces and start putting it together on the truck loosely. And before we tighten anything down, we wanna be able to twist it and adjust it to make sure we get the tips positioned just the way we like. And then once everything's set in place, we can go back and retighten from there. When you're looking at your muffler, there is actually a top and a bottom on these Corsas. So when you tip it up, you'll note on both ends, the bottom has two little drain holes, and that's just gonna allow condensation to funnel out of the muffler instead of building up inside and causing problems down the road. We're gonna go ahead now and take our factory resonator, and I've got my pull jack here to help support it, so we can bring it around and reattach it to the flange here. And you're just gonna use these same 13mm bolts that you pulled out earlier to go ahead and tighten that in and keep it in place. Now with those positioned a little bit loose and we've got this supported here, we can move down the row and put our next pipe in. This little intermediate pipe is going to be the next section that we install, but in order for this to slide into the factory resonator pipe, you may have to grab a set of channel locks or pliers here to kind of pry this down a bit and make some space. That way it'll slide in a little bit more nicely. Now with this pried out just a little bit to make some space, we're gonna go ahead and slip the pipe in and just kind of rotate it and shimmy a little bit to get it to push into place. To get this intermediate pipe to actually settle into place and push a little further into the resonator pipe, you can use a rubber mallet to tap it in and get it to shift forward. Something to keep in mind though is that you probably want to stick to something rubber and not use a metal hammer, because if you bung up the ends of this, it's gonna make the rest of the fitment pretty difficult. Next, we're gonna go ahead and take our factory hanger here, bolt it back to the frame, and get this attached. Now that we've got our first hanger installed, this is going to be able to support itself, so we can go ahead and lower our pull jack out of the way and let it kind of drop into position. Now we're going to go ahead and put the muffler on, and you'll use the shorter side pointing towards the front of the truck. The longer end is going to point towards the back. And then we've also already slid our clamp on here, so as we lift it up, we can slide this over that intermediate pipe. Now with the muffler up here in place, you'll note that we also do have the drain holes facing down, so we're not gonna have any issues with the condensation buildup on the inside. Now we're gonna go ahead and take this hanger that goes behind the muffler and attach it up to the frame. So just simply slide that tab in and then attach this bolt back where it was from factory. We're gonna go ahead and replace this hanger number 2 back here right over the axle. We can go ahead and tighten these screws in and then actually snug it down with a ratchet as well. With those 2 final hangers attached, now we'll have to run the over axle pipe and connect it to the muffler, but it can be a little tricky since you have to get it through both hangers at the same time. So to help with that, we're gonna go ahead and put this pull jack underneath our muffler, and this is gonna lift it up slightly to give us a nice even entry point, and that way we don't have to fidget with it and struggle to get it to slide in properly. Now the final piece to install obviously is the tips coming off the end. So we're gonna go ahead and pop our last clamp over this, and then it can slide onto the tailpipe here, wiggle it into place, and then you want to just kind of rotate them to get them level with the bottom of the truck. Now a good rule of thumb when you're tightening up your exhaust is to start at the front of the truck and move towards the back as you go instead of tightening from the back forward. This is going to allow you to keep that exhaust placed the way you like it, and it's not going to tweak the way that it's angled. Next up is going to be the center clamp for the intermediate pipe. So we're going to take our 15mm socket on here and tighten this back down. Now we're going to do this forward facing clamp on the front of the muffler. Now moving around to the rear facing end of the muffler, we're going to do the clamp on the back side here. Lastly, we came all the way back around to the tip, so we're gonna go ahead and tighten down this final clamp. Make sure your tip's level, like I said before. We've got everything tightened down, the exhaust is all in place. So with it all buttoned up, all we have to do now is lower down our pull jack here so we can clear it out, and then we can bring the truck to the ground and go take this thing for a drive. So we're in our 2013 Raptor. We've got this Corsa Sport exhaust on here, and we've had a chance now to run it more like day to day on the highway around town in Phoenix, and we're actually road tripping it right now up to Williams, Arizona to go spend some time up in the woods for a couple days and shoot some other content and reviews on the parts that we've got in here. But basically, as we've been cruising along, it's given us a good feel of how this exhaust is when you're just actually using the truck like any normal person would. And I'd say overall, I really like the Corsa. I think it's a really good sound. The tone is nice when you get on the throttle, and it opens up a little bit more than factory, but it is a very tame exhaust. So if you're somebody that's looking for something that's going to be really loud and like very powerful and brutal, that just opens up the 6.2, this may not be the kit that you want. But if you're somebody that's looking for something that's a little bit louder than factory and still has a good tone but isn't going to drone constantly or cause problems, this is a very safe kit to run with, and I definitely recommend it. Yeah, you can hear a little bit of the tone coming through when you're getting on the throttle, overtaking somebody on the highway. It really opens up and you get the sound when you want it. But as soon as you let off the throttle and you slow down a little bit, it mellows out really nicely. And I would say that there's very little, if almost no drone whatsoever from the actual exhaust when you're just cruising and you're sitting at around 2,000 RPM. Corsa does offer a delete pipe that you can buy separately to add in if you wanted to remove that resonator down the road and open it up a little bit more. I don't know if it's really necessary. I would say it'd be one of those things where you'd probably want to run the exhaust with the resonator first, see if you like that tone, and then if you do decide you want it louder, that's something that you can just swap out down the road. To maybe give a little bit more perspective on the sound, we're running a set of 35-inch mud terrains on this from Mickey Thompson, and the tires definitely do kind of howl and hum when we're on the road here, but they are significantly louder than where the exhaust is when you're cruising. So when you get on the throttle, the exhaust note will kind of drown out the tire noise, but when you're just regular cruising, it's quiet enough that you hear the tires louder than you hear the system. And so for a lot of you guys, if you're not running mud trains or anything, that means it's going to be probably really nice and quiet in the cab. For those of you that do have, beefy off-road tires like this, that sound might be a little bit more noticeable, but all that to say, there's not a lot of drone involved. So that's going to conclude our review of this Corsa Sport system on the Raptor 6.2. And if you guys are interested in picking up one of these kits for your truck, you can head down the description below, click that link, and it'll shoot you over to our website so you can check that out. Also, make sure you hit subscribe while you're down there so you don't miss out on any of our other videos that we're going to be cranking out and the installs and everything that we do as well. And I will see you guys next time.